Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Kids Media Club podcast. I'm Andy Williams.
Hello, I'm Drew Redfern. We are without Emily again this week. She is down under, but I am delighted that we have two guests to continue our discussion about the toy industry that we've been having of late. So we're joined today by Lisa Wright, who's head of licensing at Bonkers Toys, and Julie Splendoria, her colleague, who's VP of marketing. Welcome.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here.
We're very happy that you are. We always get a lot of listener feedback when we talk about toys. So what we're going to do is we're going to really dive into kind of trends and culture. It's something that I've always thought Bonkers is really strong on. But if you listened to our episode last week, you'll know that we are now a multimedia podcast. We found a special button in the studio that allows us to play in clips. So we're going to have a look at a bit of a sizzle from Bonkers. Press
Right.
the button, Andy.
I'm pressing the button now. Let's have a look.
Amazing. So if that isn't a distillation of how things have changed in the last 5 years or so in toy, I don't know what is. So let's talk about that. So predicting these shifts in culture, particularly where kids are concerned. Goodness, I mean, toys used to come from books and then TV shows and movies, but you really have pioneered this shift into toys built on digitally native IP. How did you go about spotting that fandom? How do you go about spotting that fandom early?
I'll dive in on that. I think a place to start is where Bonkers started is the very first license. Bonkers has been around since 2016, 2017. And the very first license at Bonkers was a game called Slither.io. And it became a massive game. A lot of people might not remember that. It was 10 years ago, 9 years ago. But at the time on Google Play and on iOS, it became the number one game, 600 million downloads. And actually, I was the licensing agent for that game. And what we saw, the explosion of that game was that YouTubers, big YouTubers, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, started playing that game. And then we got tens of millions of views. And Bonkers created those toys. And every time we saw a YouTube video, and Ryan, there was a correlation to sales. Now, how did that game even Brian Bonner, who is the president CEO of Bonkers, he was driving his kids to school, and all the kids were in the back on their phones playing. He's like, "What are you guys playing?" And they were obsessed with the game. So when he saw how his kids were engaged in it, then did the license, launched the toys, and when we saw how much YouTube really supported that property and had it explode. And in those days, it was there weren't properties coming out of YouTube, frankly, in licensing, and specifically in the toy aisle. So that started it. And then Ryan's World, when Ryan played Slither, it was a massive lift. And so that's when Bonkers became the first licensee on Ryan's World, and truly started talking to retailers about these kids on YouTube. And they were like, wait, what? Although I have to say, Julie, were you I think she was at Claire's at the time. She also recognized YouTube very early, that it was a place that could really bring in properties.
Yeah, back in 2016, one of my retail claims to fame is that I launched JoJo Siwa at retail. So that was the moment that YouTube was really blowing up and kids were watching YouTube. And JoJo Siwa was famous not only from Dance Moms, but also from her YouTube channel. So the bow turned into like a $1 billion business, just seeing the strength of YouTube and how she resonated with fans and having an item that was so iconic to her brand, bringing that to life at Claire's. And then it exploded as literally a worldwide trend. So yeah, from there on, I think 2016 was really an influential point where YouTube exploded, and it proved out in between JoJo and Ryan's World, the potential of consumer products driven off of YouTube channels.
How long did it take for other toy companies to catch up with the potential of YouTube? I mean, at that point, were people still betting on the traditional TV advertising model?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think JoJo and Ryan's World were very influential because of like literally the scale of their business and the success that those businesses were at all channels of retail, right? From specialty to mass to club. So I think 2016 was really influential. And I think from there on, it really opened up this whole new media thought process of, yeah, is it YouTube? Is it TikTok? Is it Roblox? I think from there on out, it's been a major conversation for retailers.
And did retailers accept that straight away, or were they a little bit skeptical? Maybe thought JoJo was just a one-off, it was a flash in the pan. Do you think, I mean, you at Claire's clearly saw the opportunity, but were there other retailers who were a little bit like, we're not sure?
Lisa, what do you think? I'll have you start with
Oh,
my opinion.
I think it took retailers a long time. You're absolutely right, Joe. There was a lot of like, this is just a one-off. This is just a
Yeah.
fluke. With
Because it
JoJo,
flipped on its head conventional wisdom, right?
oh yes, yes,
Mm.
yes, yeah. And I think it took a long time. I mean, it really did. It was still like this is over there. It's this little niche thing. And for a lot of retailers. So it
Mm.
did take quite a while to see that there's an actual audience, a huge, massive fan base here. But you're right. Traditionally, it was like, what's the television show? What's the film?
I think it probably differs by retailer too.
We've spoken about this hundreds of times on the podcast. Andy's got kids, I've got kids. You spoke about the CEO of Bonkers. You take the lead from your own little mini focus group. But when you scale that up into a business, again, it was a new set of competencies that toy companies had to learn, right? You didn't just look at the TV. Now you had to go out and start picking up the vibes from YouTube, this vast Wild West in 2016 that was YouTube. How on earth do you go about doing that?
Well, I always say I think there's a science and an art, right? So the science is the views, the subs, like the actual numbers, right? The signals, the growth, the engagement. So there are a lot of signals that you could pick up along the way, a lot. And so we always start there, right? What are the numbers? What are the views? What are the subs? Is it growing? That's the science. But then really the art is the how engaged are the fans? Where's the emotional hook? I know you talk a lot about this on the podcast, right? The story, the characters, what is the connection to the fans and to kids? So why do kids really care? Like, do they want to collect these characters? Do they want to dress up as these characters? Do they want to be these characters? Do they want to be best friends with these characters? So what's the emotional hook? So at Bonkers, we always start with the views and the subs, and the engagement is vital. It's vital. But there's such a big difference between just an audience versus an engaged audience, a fan base, as you even saw in our sizzle, right? I mean, I always say my YouTube algorithm thinks I'm an 8-year-old boy, and it just feeds us a lot of great stuff. But we spend a lot of time really looking at where are the fans and how are the fans expressing themselves. We'll go to like live events, Discord, Reddit. Like there's a lot of places where we could go to really see. Not every big property can translate into toys. And that's where we spend a tremendous amount of time seeing, is there that connection?
That's amazing because and that really resonates with. It's funny how much that reflects conversations that we have on the kind of production side, because often we talk about the shift from traditional TV to YouTube and the fact that it's not just a different platform, it's a kind of different mindset that you've got to get your head around, and you've got to iterate quickly, and you've got to be in a continual kind of contact with that audience and engage with that audience. Do you think how have the toy companies adapted to that shift on the toy side? Because I'd imagine that some of those challenges apply as much on toys as they do on production, that you're having to turn stuff around faster to kind of meet that demand online. Is that something that you think the industry struggled with, and that Bonkers has really kind of carved a niche out for being able to respond at speed to some of that demand?
Yes, I think Bonkers has certainly differentiated itself in that way. In a lot of ways, where how do I say it? We're very lean, and we try to make smart decisions, but quickly, because you're right. Once we see an audience exploding like that, we try to really seize the moment, and then we spend a tremendous amount of time as Julie and the whole marketing team, product development team, creative team, really on how to translate that fandom into Toys Kids One. And then Joe, I mean, working with you and the Warrior Cats team in really bringing that to life has been, frankly, it's been a delight. Like that's where we saw with Warrior Cats too, right? How do we translate? Like the fandom is so committed to those characters. So how to authentically bring something that they love and deeply want, and to do it, in a way. So Julie spends a lot of time in that world.
Yeah, I think what's so important is finding the brands that really have longevity, right? Like, I think that's absolutely at the forefront of importance to our retailer partners. They want brands that they can rely on, and it's not just a flash in the pan, right? We do have to consider the amount of time it takes to actually develop product and bring it to market and have that align with, mass retail and their stringent set dates. And they want brands that are going to last for a couple years. So that is a part of our process as we vet brands. We really want to make sure that this is something that's going to last beyond just a 6-month trend. It has to have longevity and growth where we can really build out those storylines, the characters, the collectability. I think that is really important, something that we keep top of mind as we're finalizing brands that we're going to support.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's something that did come up when we had our chat with John Bolsh of Toy World magazine recently, is that there's kind of almost the two polarized ends of the industry. There is the very trend driven stuff that can blow up in a minute on TikTok, but then it's a race to market, and it might burn bright but then die equally quickly. The other is obviously the Peppa Pigs and the Blueies and the Transformers that are decades long franchises, and of course everybody would love one of those, but it kind of, we've got that polarized kind of shape to the bell curve. So when you're doing that, Julie, so it strikes me that there's two things there. You've got to think about listening to the fans. In the old days, I guess you considered the retailers your consumers, but now you've got to have one ear to the ground to the fans, and you've got to understand what they're doing. But similarly, as soon as you've decided to launch a product, you've got to be thinking about how you stretch it again over that 6 months. Is that something that you and the marketing team, once you press go, that's it? You're all pedal to the metal. Tell us a little bit about how you do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when we're looking at new IPs, we're obviously looking at, the brand awareness, the affinity. Is there a fandom there? Are there characters, a natural character hook that we can, really bring to life in a collectible type of way? I think a product hook is so important too. The success of JoJo and the success of Ryan was really built on the fact that they had such natural products that you could bring to life and felt really authentic and true to their brand. And then marketing is a huge piece of it. When we look at a lot of the IPs that we partner with, it's critical that we have faith that they're going to continue to market and have new content, and that this brand is going to be very viable for years to come. So I really think like the success of an IP, and when we approach brands, it's really all about like the fandoms, the characters, and the playability. That all together equates to a really successful business equation for us.
So looking at the YouTube and the gaming IP, so we saw Skibbity in that sizzle there, and you've got others in the portfolio. Is that now established as a source of new IP? And is it, are retail comfortable with that now? I'm guessing they are. They've seen it now for a good few years, and it's proven success.
Wait, after gaming, you mean Roblox?
Yeah, YouTube, but gaming particularly. I mean, we've seen obviously Roblox is the successful Roblox IP are beginning to be optioned by studios like 20th Century Studios now. And of course, we had the Minecraft movie success. So has gaming earned its stripes, do you think, as a source of viable IP in toy?
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Mm.
And for us, I look at it as, we look at it as like YouTube, TikTok, it's where kids are watching and discovering. But then when you get into gaming, they're engaging, they're interacting. And then on Roblox with the marketplace, they want to dress their avatars, certain things. So there's a deep engagement. To us, it's like when it all comes together. So if there's kids dressing as their favorite whatever or their avatar, but then creating YouTube videos and creating content about it, or discovering it on YouTube, then going into Roblox to play the game, and then creating their own content. So each platform is distinctly different, but when they're all interacting with each other and you see a fandom building up around it, that's when it gets really exciting. But I think the Roblox platform, and frankly, all of the gaming platforms have been, they've been vital, just really vital places for us to look for really interesting IP.
That's interesting. And that touches, you touched on community there. Do you think, has the kind of dial shifted more towards community, and are influencers in some ways less critical to the marketing of new toys? Are you looking less towards influencers and more towards kind of fan communities in general?
I think it's a mix of both, with a lot of our IPs, the influencer itself is the IP, right? So if you think of, somebody like AFMAO, them promoting and marketing to our brands and our products is critical. It's at the forefront of what drives success. But we always weave products into the content in a way that it feels really authentic to the brand and just a part of the storyline, right? So I think influencer marketing at that level is really influential, but I think really it's also a mix of creator-led marketing as well. So we all know kids are, experiencing toys and finding out about toys on YouTube, on TikTok, on Roblox. And I think it's really all about getting product in the hands of those content creators that create that like organic, relatable content. And the more kids start to see that same toy in the hands of so many kids on TikTok, the more it will tell them this is a trend. I have to have this, right? And it almost becomes this loop, right? We send toys out to creators create content. It inspires kids to buy the toys and create their own content. And I think some of the biggest trends that are happening in the market right now are purely based off of social media trends. When you think of unboxing and just the surprise reveal, like that in itself is entertainment. I think of, squishy hunting. You're watching kids squishy hunt online. You're watching kids squishy trade. You're watching ASMR videos. So much of that content is really fueling the business and the brand. So I think content created or content creator-led content is of key importance. to our
Right.
business.
And is there still a place for unboxing videos? Are they still kind of a strong driver for?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. I think, you know, it's always been a business, the surprise and reveal and unboxing. But I think, what PopMart did last year and how influential that was to the industry, it's built this whole business, right? Of surprise unboxings and just the fun of unboxing to see what character you got in your box. I think it's a huge trend, and I think it'll continue for sure.
Yeah, it does seem to have come back and enjoyed a resurgence with the whole PopMart side of things. So in a way, I mean, this is the very nature of what we've often remarked on with kids in terms of kids have always been inherent creators. We've always drawn pictures. We've always done our own little shows at home. This is just an evolution of that, right? They get a toy, and instead of doing the little play at home on the dining room table, they now do it with their friends and they put it on TikTok or they put it on YouTube. It's the same psychology as always has been there, but now it just happens online. But actually, then that fuels the business. Is that something that you think is really important when you're thinking about that? The toy hook, the play. It's like, how is this going to be so compelling that they're going to want to do it with their friends and then share it?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, we're even thinking about, how is the box structured? How do you open the box? Like, does it create those ASMR moments, like the ripping of the box, the opening of the bag? I think, yeah, that content is key. And I think it'll continue to be really important in the future. I don't think TikTok is going anywhere or YouTube.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
So what makes for a good toy in 2026 then? I thought it was interesting how you even think about the sound of opening a box and the packaging, because it is an experience after all, isn't it? It's one of the things that we used to just assume, the box gets ripped open, it gets, discarded behind you, but actually now it can be part of the whole enjoyment of it. So tell us about those constituent parts that you think about now.
Yeah. I think, as Lisa mentioned earlier, it's all about like that emotional connection to the brand, right? I think the forefront of it is really the product and the detail that goes into it. I think, watching a lot of our unboxing for a lot of our brands, like the consumers really, they have this affinity and the love for the brand. And then when they get that character, whether it's, a minifigure or a plush, they really appreciate and enjoy all the details. So I think, the quality of the IP, the quality of the characters, the details that are within it, and I think ultimately of value. I think obviously consumers today, like price point is really important, and having that price value equation is really important to our retailers as well. We live in a world where Five Below is one of the biggest destinations for kids. And when you look at, mass market at Walmart and Target, like they really want us to be offering up a value at a great price point. So I think all of those are really important to the success of any toy.
Mm. You can't patronize kids. They can discern quality, and you can't pull the wool over their eyes, and it would be unfair to. So I think it's really it makes me very happy to that you go through that thought process, because clearly it's a good business decision as well.
Oh, yeah. And especially with creators, like we get instant feedback from the fans publicly, publicly on comments. So you truly have to be very authentic.
Yeah, it's a good point. You're much more exposed and held to account these days, aren't you? Particularly if you are in direct contact with fandom. So in a way, that's a positive. It's a good symbiotic relationship you have.
Truly. Yes, very vocal. And in both directions, when they love something.
Yeah, that's the best part about the job, I think, for Lisa and I. It's, seeing fans that are so in love with the product that we bring to life is really the best part about this job.
Does that influence the toys development directly? Do you kind of pick up on some of the stuff that the fans have responded to? And is that fed into the kind of product design or the toys?
Absolutely. Yeah. We really closely watch, all of the comments online, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, wherever the fans are at, we're watching closely to understand, like, what do they value? What do they appreciate? What do they want? We even have some super fans for a lot of our IPs. We have a select group of what we consider super fans that we even collaborate with. We run ideas by them. I think that is most important again, because I think product authenticity is really key in the industry that we're in. So I think being true to the fans and giving them what they love and expect is really important.
That's amazing.
And that must be different to how product development cycles used to happen, right? You didn't used to have to do this constant evaluation, this ear to the ground. What are the vibes telling us? Is that something that yeah, has meant that you have to think about PD in a different way?
I think it's a balance. I think, at the end of the day, there's a couple key items that are always going to drive the business that create the framework of the business. But when you think about more of those like trend items, whether it's a squishy or it's a fidget, I think that's the place where you've got to be a little bit even closer to fandom to understand what they're going to want to see at retail. So I think it's a balance, right? You have a core base of the business that we can do, really perfect and have maybe a slightly longer lead time, but then have a piece of the business that's a little bit more like, I would call it like a quick strike, where you can execute it on faster product development timelines and bring it to a life where it's still relevant with the trends that are happening in the market.
Mm. Has there ever been an example that you can share where something that you've learned from the fandom or from that immediate feedback that you've just gone, oh, that's not anything we thought of, but actually it's going to help us materially improve what we do in the future?
One of the things that we're struggling with is that obviously there's this huge trend in unboxing. And the buyers and the relationships that we have in retail are in aisles where everything is to be blind, mystery items. But what we do find a lot from the fans is that they want to collect every single character. And making everything mystery makes it really difficult for them to do it. Obviously, there's their ability to trade, but they would rather spend more money upfront and create and collect the entire collection versus doing as much of the hunting. So that's something, just to be totally transparent, that we're always kind of juggling. How can we service those customers in a way that brings them joy, but also maintains the business model that we know is so successful, which is the repeat purchases with mystery items.
And how do you have any specific strategies that helped you kind of bridge that gap really?
Yep. What we're working on is, larger collector sets that are available.com, but delaying the availability of those so that it doesn't infringe upon the unboxing business. You bring it out in a way that's a little bit delayed. It allows them to collect the whole set, but it doesn't affect the normal mystery portion of our business, which is so important to, Target and Walmart, which is really where we're focused.
That's super interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before, but it's particularly when there are limited drops. And again, I think of PopMart, when things come out only for a limited period, you get to the end, and if you haven't completed your collection,
Exactly.
there's a little bit of a panic because they're
Right.
disappearing soon and something else is
Yes.
coming in. And for those collectors
Absolutely.
for whom having the whole set is really important, that's going to
Right.
be an issue.
Yep. Yeah, and we get emails all the time at Bonkers too, where fans are like, "Will you be re-releasing this? What countries will this be available in?" And we love to see those emails because that shows really how devoted these fans are. That there is a true seek and find and really desire to create full collections of so many of these characters and IPs that we manage.
Interesting. Uh, I had one question was sort of inspired by when you were talking about Target. You've got a partnership with Target that's a kind of YouTube Toys and Colors channel. Is that right? Yeah. And is that an example of, because I think what we're seeing more and more of is kind of that blurring of the lines between studios and toys and almost everyone becoming both a kind of a media company in some respects. Is that does that get integrated in terms of how you kind of market the toys, or can you use that channel to kind of tease new toys that are coming up, or really kind of leverage that side of it?
Definitely. Yeah, Toys and Colors is a new IP for us, and they are extremely influential. They've had billions of views. I think they're like the #1 YouTube channel from an ensemble cast. And we had to, when they approached us, and we've had a long-standing partnership with Pocket Watch, because Ryan's World was Pocket Watch. So Knowing how successful Ryan's World was, we always have a desire to be back in the preschool business. And Toys and Colors has been a fun project to work on. And what we did there, in coordination with their team, was to create a new approach where our toys were incorporated in the content in a way called playable props. We don't want to give too many details, but just to share, what we did is we brought our toys to life in their content. We seeded it in their content about 9 months before product launched on the floor in a way that was very memorable. And we called that playable props. And it was literally bringing the toys to life in a supersized scale. So what they did is the cast of Toys and Colors just started to play with these props and incorporate them in the storylines of the channel. And what that does, of course, is create a familiarity with the target customer. So by the time we now launch toys, there's that direct connection between the content and the role play, which is key to their channel. It's really all about role play. Now we brought toys to life in normal style, in normal size, in role play, but they've seen it seeded into the content in several months in a repeated type of way too. So I think, again, you can be strategic, right, about how you seed that content in so it feels more authentic. Because I think that, of course, is important to the fan. We don't want to be throwing products down their throats. We want it to feel like it's a natural progression from the content that the fans have seen and watched.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, that's one of the things, again, it comes back to you can't fool kids. They'll spot if you're
Yes.
trying to be too salesy. It does come across
Absolutely.
as
It turns them off.
inauthentic.
Right.
And also, and is this, was it the case that also you've also got to let the talent do their thing with it? You
Yeah.
can't afford to be there kind of in the studio saying, just pull that lever there, or you do this, because again, it comes across. And I very often think that the best way is just to let them do what they do naturally.
100%.
That's actually key for most of, because we partner with so many huge YouTube creators. The key is they've gotten successful and gotten that audience based on their authentic content. We please keep going with that. Don't let us mess with that at all. And then because we work so closely with them, that's why if the toys are natural and organic to the content, then and then we we partner with them, and it's like what makes sense in their channel for their audience, that can then be translated into toys and in the content and on the shelf.
And in a way, it's that discoverability, and you said it's about relevance as well. They're already familiarity as well. That's a word that you use, Julie. So already when it hits retail, they're kind of familiar because they've seen it with their favorite creators whom they trust, and it's already kind of in there that they know how this thing is going to work, so they know what they're going to get. And in a way, it comes back to that value exchange that you spoke about, Julia. When you're making a decision to spend some money on a toy, particularly as a parent, you kind of want to know that your kid's going to play with it. I've wasted a lot of money.
I know. We all have, I think.
My kid played with for like one day.
Right.
So what's coming up? Tell us a little bit about Q4. Let's crystal ball gaze. What are you excited about in this coming holiday period? What trends are you seeing? What are you thinking is interesting?
Yeah, I think, coming to some of the trends that we've already talked about, I think those will be most influential this fourth quarter. I think, again, that whole unboxing, blind box business is going to be hugely important to a lot of the retailers. Again, coming off of a huge year of PopMart, we've seen a lot of retailers take a major position on unboxing, really even Target. I'm sure people in the US have seen that they've created new destinations in stores that kind of build out a whole section of new IPs to unbox. A lot of it is mystery figures as well as mystery plush. The IPs they're registering, span across, a wide range of age demographics. But I think also what PopMart has done in the last year has really increased this kidult collecting trend that's been out in the market too. And we see that with some of our IPs, which is so important. I think having some IPs that have a dual audience that they appeal to, both that younger generation, but also, an adult collector, 18 plus. So I think unboxing sections, Asian inspired collectibles, again, that PopMart influence, I think will be really important. I think the evolution of Squishies will be really interesting to watch. Obviously, it's been so so influential to the industry over the course of the past year. So I think how companies, evolve Squishies and other fidget adjacent toys will be really interesting. So things like slime or clickies or 3D printed toys, I think all things fidgets will remain really important. I think sports trading cards and Pokemon will continue to be huge. Obviously, the World Cup was majorly influential in sports card trading this year, but I think outside of that, trading cards have been having a big moment. So I think those kind of three are the biggest trends that I see. I know a lot of those mainstay brands like Lego, Hot Wheels, Barbie, I'm sure they'll have huge years, but those are some of like the trends that I think will be more relevant this year.
The card collecting, it's certainly been popping up on my radar too.
Right.
As a sport fan, but also having seen the growth in platforms like Whatnot,
Right.
where you can buy trading cards, and again, it's unboxing for grown-ups
Yes.
for trading cards. And
Yeah.
there's some huge channels on Whatnot doing that.
Yeah. I think Whatnot is a really interesting platform. I've watched my kids firsthand experience it, and just that thrill of the live auction and then the surprise of what you're going to get, I think, again, goes back to this whole unboxing trend that we're seeing. But I do think Whatnot is definitely a platform to watch, and I think it'll become even more popular in the coming months.
Yes, I do too. And I'm kind of loving, I'm holding up my own little Pokemon here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of loving this permission for adults to indulge their love of toy collecting. Here
Absolutely.
for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the fun of toys, right? It can bring joy to you at any age.
Exactly. Oh, well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. We always love diving into the world of toys. I'm going to throw over to Andy to do the wrap up.
Thanks very much, Lisa and Julie, and thanks to you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. Please like and subscribe and watch and listen wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you all next week.